Now back to the VO Life with Troy Holden.
The VO Life is just a place to hear about, well, the VO Life. There's no legal information, no real advice, just sharing experiences and stories about all levels of the VO Life. We're all in this together, so relax and enjoy the conversation.
This is the VO Life. Positive conversations about living the voiceover life. Insight into the business and day-to-day grind of being a regular Joe VO. From the humble beginnings to the finally hitting a new level to getting that first big client. It's all about that VO life. Here's your host, Troy Holden.
Hey, and welcome back. This is the VO Life, where we're out here trolling the deep water looking for those big fish out there who are about to hit it big. And I've always had a lot of confidence in this guy. I think he's one of those people that is on that cusp, and he's learning, and he's digging, he's doing the right things. We want to welcome Charles Coates to the VO Life. Hello, Charles.
Hey, Troy. Thank you for having me.
How's everything going?
It's going pretty good. It's going going in the right direction. You know, that's the main thing.
Yes, sir. That is the main thing. Yeah, and you know what the right direction is for you? It may not be the same for me or for this other guy or this girl. Isn't it amazing how we can go in so many different directions and still have success?
Yeah, that's a really good point. You know, I think everybody's journey is different, and there's a lot of different ingredients to success, right? And sometimes you just have to test those ingredients out to see, all right, well, you know what? That didn't really work this time. Or, you know what? That really worked. Or, hey, I heard somebody told me if I put this in my cake, then it's going to taste better. And then you try that and you're like, well, that didn't work. Or, hey, that's great.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it's funny, too. We all have different types of goals. A lot of people have a financial goal. A lot of people have a dollars per order goal. Mm-hmm. And I use that one a lot because I feel like back when I was doing everything for $5 and $10, and I watched that per sale number start to go up, and I've yet to do an audiobook, so this is all the hard way. Mm-hmm. And watching it go from $5 to $60 mm-hmm. To me has been pretty big. And a lot of people, you know, whatever, you know. I'm doing $3,000 a month, but they're doing $3,000 worth of $5 jobs, and that's hard on you.
Oh,
it really is. And to get the better work is cool. So as you're setting your goals, fill us in a little bit on how you're going about things and building your business.
Goals wise, I have, you know, it started out with, I just want to make something. Right. I just want to see how much I can make. I didn't really have a goal. It was just, I just want to get paid by somebody to record something. And that was really how it started. Kind of like you said, is like, I mean, my first job I ever did, it was $4. I made $4. And it was reading a poem for some guy from the University of Oregon. And, you know, going from that excitement, you know, because it kind of in steps, right? You'll get, you want this thing, but you got it. And then now it's like, all right, well, that sparkle shine has kind of gone off of that. Now I've done 25 jobs at $5. So that's not, it's not like the first one anymore, you know? And so then it seems kind of incremental, like, okay, well, now maybe there's another platform that I'm going to try. And I think a lot of times, because there's so many different options in voiceover, there's Fiverr, there's Upwork, there's Voice.com, there's all these other things, Bodalgo, Bunny, right? And I think that I don't know if it's the case, but with me, early in the beginning, if I didn't know about longevity, and you always hear about like it's a marathon, not a race, and you start to kind of, and in the beginning, you're kind of like, oh, I hate hearing that, because it's always like, oh, it's a marathon, not a race. It's a marathon, not a race. And I think what happens is you want that satisfaction, that quick satisfaction. Like I need validation that I'm doing good. I need to be doing this fast. And so you'll jump around to all the other platforms, and you'll just kind of like forget about everything on a different platform. And that's kind of what happened. So it was kind of like a jack of all trades but master of none, I guess you can kind of say. Like I started something here, and then it's not really working, and I'm going to jump over here, and then it's not really working, and then so basically I had no firm footing. I was just kind of hopping around, doing this, doing that, watching other people's success, but not actually doing things to mimic, to learn, to get involved with, to those kinds of things to grow the business. And once I started really focusing on one thing, you start focusing on one thing. You know what I mean? You start to build that up. Right. So financial goal wise, I've been raising. So financial goal wise, it's between all of the platforms and external customers and things like that. But I'm shooting right now to be at about 6,000 a month financially. Right. And so, because you got to consider in taxes and stuff too. And we have basically, it's just incrementally going up. And the things that I'm doing to do that and to get those goals is making sure customer service is key. Really building that relationship with somebody, even if it's for a little bit, right? It's kind of like, what's that movie, Fight Club, where they're sitting on the plane and he's talking to him and he's like, oh, you're like a single serving friend, right? And that's kind of what the customers are. They're like, you have to treat them like a friend, but maybe they're not a long-term friend. Most of them won't be. Some of them might become, but you have to treat them like at least a single serving friend and not just this, okay, well, you ordered this. This is my job and I'm out of here. It's like, every single person when I put in there, hey, I hope your project goes well. Like, I really hope their project goes well. Like, I hope that I help them to succeed in some way. And so with that attitude and that mental attitude, I think that's really helped a lot.
Yeah. And I think that's the right approach. I mean, you're exactly right. There are going to be hundreds or thousands of one-offs, and you got to treat them like they're coming back the next day. You better, because you never know. And I think that's a huge part of this business. I don't know how much you have done with, live direct sessions and things like that. I think that's also another key is how you perform in those areas. If you're easily directable and, something that they schedule for 30 minutes and you're done in 10 or 15, you are really making points, and that's customer service because you are doing what you're told, you're delivering what they want. But if you get in there and they say, well, I'd like you to do it this way, and you're like, well, I don't know that I can do it that way. And I have run into some people that are like that. They almost push back and would say, no, I can't read it like that. I just can't do it that way. That's tough, and I think that's another big part of it. But I mean, it's amazing how many different realms of customer service we could get into.
Oh yeah, one thing I used to work for American Airlines, and I was a leadership and professional development facilitator there for the L&D team. And one thing that I taught in one of my classes called Lead the Experience. This was all like managers, senior managers, directors, and up. And, we always talk about the golden rule, right? Treat everyone like you want to be treated. But one thing that I learned is we need to follow the platinum rule. And the platinum rule is treat others how they want to be treated. Because I want to chit chat, talk, shoot the breeze. But maybe they don't want to. Maybe they, like you said, they have a 30-minute schedule and they want to get the work done. Hey, it was professional, it was great. And then you delivered them what they want, not what I want. Because I want to become friends and talk and things like that.
Good point. Good point. My dad owned his own business for many years. He worked for other people for a long time, but in his 40s, he had the opportunity to open his own business. And I worked for him for 12 years when I first got out of school. And I learned more from him on how to treat people than I've ever learned anywhere else. And he told me one day, he said, we're going up to, and we sold industrial sewing equipment of all things. We went into garment factories back when those existed in the United States, and we sold them machinery and supplies. But long story short, he said, we're going into this. It was a huge plant, and he said, we're going to visit 3 different people. And he said, the first guy we're visiting is a mechanic. And my dad had on jeans and a pullover shirt. He came back out to the car and slipped a jacket on over the top of that, said, now we're going up to talk to the engineering department or the guys up there that plan on what they're doing. And then that also carried him over to the plant manager. But he talked to all 3 of them on their level, not on his level, not what he wanted to do. He always made sure he gave them what they wanted, exactly what you just said. And I have lived by that my whole life. If I'm talking to, the guy that comes by and picks up my trash, I'm going to talk to him the way he should be talked to, friendly, on his level. But if I'm up here in the big city of Portland, Tennessee, talking to the Chamber of Commerce president, I'm gonna try to be a little more formal.
Sure.
And you should. It's what we do. And I think that's where people miss the boat with a lot of this. And our customers or clients in this business are that way. We have some that are, nickel dime and a little harsh, and we have to really watch them. But yet we have these others that are a little higher up, and we've got to be careful.
Yeah, for sure. I think that there's a balance between like what we value ourselves and what the reality of the world is. Like, do I want to get industry rates? Yeah, of course I do. Right? I mean, who doesn't? And I think one thing that's kind of tough is having that customer service mind, but still wanting to win. You know what I mean? Whether it be win the argument, win the conversation, win the whatever. And I think a little bit of humility and humbleness will get you a long way. I mean, kind of like this morning with that one client that said, "Hey, your voice wasn't good." And I was like, what do you mean my voice isn't good?
That hurts.
Yeah, it stung. That was the first thing I saw when I woke up too.
Does.
I was like, what is this? What do you mean my voice isn't good? And I looked, and then I declined it, and I was like, "Hey, I did this, and this, and I'm glad, you have a revision. I'll do that for you, no problem. This and that." And he's like, and he wrote back, and he's like, "I respect you I respect you." That's what he said. I respect you, but we're a team, and I gave it to my manager, and he didn't like your voice, and so there's a side of me that's like, well, that's not my fault. You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm sorry that you liked my voice and you hired me, but your boss had no idea. And now it's the voice that he received was something that he wasn't picturing in his mind. And so it was, those kinds of things. It's tough to swallow.
You got to hope he learned a lesson too, right?
Yeah.
Next time you play the sample for the boss before you hit the order button.
Exactly. Because,
I run into it a lot.
Yeah, because if they had said, "Hey, can you read me a quick sample?" If I had time, which I usually do, it's, it'll just take me a couple minutes. I'll be glad to send them a sample. No problem.
Right.
And and that's the thing. Like, I got to think of it. I should think of it as, instead of like, this guy's trying to get one over on me. Like, I really need to have a positive attitude and be like, maybe this guy's never done it before and he has no idea, but now he knows now.
Could have been his first day on the job. You never know.
It could have been.
You just never know.
Yeah.
Never know. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. Tell me what lured you to voiceover. You're at American Airlines. Why voiceover?
All right. So had a super good position there. They brought me over. They headhunted me. I was working for Expedia and Hotels.com. I was living in China. I opened up I speak Korean. So I opened up a Korean call center for Hotels.com and Expedia there. And it's right on the border. So there's a lot of like Chinese Koreans that speak Korean. And I got called. They paid for me to fly back, moved me back here. Everything was awesome. Built a brand new house. Like, life was good. And then coronavirus happened, and it literally shook the foundation of everything and just rip the rug out from under. And the crazy part is, and I've actually emailed this person and chatted with them after, the Friday before, they said, hey, this thing's kind of getting out of control. Don't come into work. The Friday before, I was teaching that class that I was just talking about, Lead the Experience. And at the end of the class, one of the senior directors came up to me and said, hey, Charles, I really enjoyed the class because it's a 2-day course. We go through a lot of role plays and things like that. And he said, Charles, he's like, enjoyed the class. It's fantastic. I learned a lot. And he's like, have you ever thought about VO work? And I was like, what's VO? I was thinking he was talking about something with airlines, like velocity operations or something, you know?
Yeah.
And so,
yeah, I hear you.
And so, and I was like, well, what's VO? And he's like, voiceover work. And I was like, I still didn't know what voiceover was. I'm like, voiceover what? Like PA systems? I don't know. And he's like, no, you know, like cartoons and movies and commercials and stuff. And I was like, no, I've never thought about that. And I'm telling you what, man, when one door closes, there's a reason for everything, you know, that I think that God does. And the thing is, it was that weekend that we got the call. And the problem was, we've never faced a situation, so the whole department didn't know what to do. There was no backup plan for this because we're going into classes, we're training pilots, we're training flight attendants, ground crews, you know, everybody's coming in. And now it's like nobody comes in. And so they were like, we're going to jump on a call every day just to see if we're alive and good, and we'll figure it out as we go. So for about the first 2.5 weeks of staying home, we really didn't have any work to do, right? And so what that guy said to me about voiceover work stuck in my head. And I started to look up. I mean, I have nothing else to do now. I'm just sitting at home. And so I just started looking up videos about voiceover. And I was like, well, that's something that I could do maybe. And I used to have a DJ company. So I had this mic. And I didn't have a booth or anything. I just started with 2 seat cushions, like from lawn chair furniture, and I strapped this microphone onto the top of my coffee cup with some masking tape, and I recorded into it. And I had a t-shirt over my head, or like a button-up shirt. I have the picture. It's crazy that I have it. And I was like, I think this is something I could do, you know? And I ended up building my own mic stand out of wood spindles out of the trash, because there's all house construction going on around here. And then I got an old Tupperware, like Christmas tote that somebody had thrown away because it had a hole in the bottom of it. And then I lined it up with foam and talked into that with a little iPhone in front of my face about this far, sweating like I was in the stinking jungle, you know, with a blanket over me, because I'm like, I need more, you know, sound dampening. So I'm going to put this comforter over me now. And it was bad. And I ended up building my booth, which rocks my face. All of junk scrap wood from the houses being built. I talked to the contractor. I was like, can I have some of that wood? And he's like, well, I can't tell you it's okay, because if you get hurt on the property, then he's like, but if I come back in the morning and I don't know, some of the trash wood's gone, you know, whatever. Mm-hmm. So that's what I did. And it's a killer booth. It's a killer booth.
That's a great story.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's a great story. That is super. So on your journey so far, what has been your favorite type of work that you've been doing? What do you like to do the best?
You know, honestly, I like to do the evil voices, the character stuff. And that was not even something that I thought about at all. I was like, I was a instructor. I was a, you know, facilitator. I'm going to do e-learning. And I used to be a paramedic, so I know medical terms. I was pre-med in college, so I know medical terms. I was like, I'm going to be the medical, you know, narrator for e-learning or this and that. And I do that, but it's not really fun. You know, it's not that much fun. But I started a character gig, an evil voice character gig, on a whim, just to be like, well, I'm going to just do this one. And dude, it took off. And the cool thing is, like, you get to act in there. Like, you're in the booth and you're like, oh, we're going to do the, oh, come on. And you're acting in there, and and it's fun. And it's fun. And I would say I enjoy that the most. That's probably, I don't get the most work doing that, but I would say that that's the most fun.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and oddly, I get way more impressions and clicks on my character gig. I don't get, like you said, I don't get the work off of it, but I get a lot of attention to that gig, which is weird to me. I don't know.
I thought of that same thing because it's the same thing with mine. And here's what I've come up with. People that are looking for characters, right? It's kind of like clicking through YouTube videos a little bit, because you type in a character. Like, you don't want to hear a bunch of different people do e-learning, but it's fun to listen to a bunch of people doing crazy voices. So it's more, it's more of a chance to, I don't know, have a little fun when you're listening to it, because if you hear somebody like the evil, crazy professor or the pirate or the, whatever, I think it's a little more fun to click through those and look at those at least, than it is for the e-learning one.
Absolutely. Yeah, I just finished a thing tonight, and it was about drill shafts. 16 minutes about, and it was all these architectural terms, and every now and then I have to stop and jump over to Google Translate. I'm like, I don't know what that is. Yeah. So the funny part is, this was the second time I had to do it. I did it 3 weeks ago, and the guy sent it out to his client. They loved it, but they were engineers, and they said, we don't like the way he says, and this is my fault. So I fixed it, but it was in there 31 times, the word characterization, and I highlighted the I. I always have done that. Right. I don't know why. It's characterization, because it makes me spread the word out properly. Because if I say it the other way, if I'm not careful, I'll say characterization.
Oh, right.
I won't get the in there. It's characterization. So he said, could you replace all those? And I'm like, no, but I can re-record the whole script, no charge. Because there's no way to punch in characterization or characterization 30 times. Yeah. Ain't going to happen.
That actually happened to me. I was doing a thing for OSHA, and it was, what was the word? Maltodextrin was the word. And I've always known it as maltodextrin, and apparently there's no word. It's either maltodextrin or maltodextrin. I don't know which one I said wrong, but I said the wrong one like a bunch of times. And they're like, yeah, everything's really good, but that one word, you're saying it like this, and there's no such thing. It's maltodextrin or malodextrin. And I was like, oh no. And just like you said, you cannot plug in that many and make it sound right. No. So I was like, no, I'll go ahead and re-record.
It becomes an AI read if I do that, because I'm going to record the word one time and plug it in all 20 places.
So then what you do is you get the maltodextrin, and then you get it. So no, it wasn't going to work.
Exactly.
It wasn't going to work.
That's funny. Share with everybody, because you kind of like you've been on your journey for a year and a half or so, I guess. Share with them what you've done as far as coaching and demos, because everybody likes to know who people use and what you've done.
So coaching wise, I have had coaching. So I'm in Bill DeWeese's Blueprint, VO Blueprint. So in the Blueprint, you have Mike Hathcote, which he's a coach there. Mallory talks about fiber and things like that. And one-on-one coaching wise, it hasn't really actually been much for one-on-one coaching. I've done a lot of like practice sessions, coaching back and forth, like peer coaching, but actual coaches like, hey, I hired you for 5 hours, and we're going to do this back and forth. There hasn't been much of that at all, but I need to, number one, because I'm nowhere near what I think I could do. Right. So that's an investment that I need to make. But I make connections with a lot of people that have been coached a lot. And I learn from them because a lot of them start to pick up that ear. And I'm not saying just because you've been coached a couple times, you could be a coach. That's not what I'm saying at all. But people that have had like a lot of coaching and they're really good in they're really good in the industry. When you have reading sessions and you kind of get coached by them, I would say that's a coaching session because I'm sure
it qualifies for sure.
Yeah. So if that's the case, then I've had a lot of coaching because I try to join those sessions and make those connections a lot.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's a good way. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we preach that a lot on here. That there's a lot of ways to get help and coaching without spending a ton of money. And a lot of people just think, no, I have to get that $150 an hour and what. No, you don't. I mean, if you, like you said, hook up with the right people. There are a lot of people who are as new as we are that are doing really, really well. They are also, there are a couple of them I know who have a fantastic ear for audio, and I'll bounce things off of them a lot. I'm not as good with, well, you should use this plug-in and this plug-in and this plug-in. I'm like, yeah, I don't want to go that far sometimes,
Right.
But I do want to say, is the level good? Is the music at the right place? Because it's, these demos you get picked apart. So you're out in Texas, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So tell me about some of the places you've lived around the country, and of course, I guess you settled there because of the job.
Yeah. So I was born in Texas. I was born in Killeen, Darnell Army Hospital. I'm an Army brat, and moved to Illinois. Lived there till I was 5. Moved to LA when I was 6. Lived in LA, all around LA. My mom and dad were apartment managers, and we moved every year. So I went to a different school every grade. Until I was a sophomore in high school and moved back to Missouri. And my family opened up a business there, a pizza restaurant actually, in a small town called Battlefield, Missouri, right outside of Springfield. And I went to college there. And then after that, moved back to Dallas and worked in the Hotels.com main office in Dallas. And then in 2015, moved to China and lived there for 3.5 years. And then 2018, I moved back here. So, and then with working with a travel company, I've been everywhere. I used to have call centers in the Philippines and Brazil, South America, Australia, and I'd travel. At one point, I was traveling like 80% of the year.
Holy smokes!
Yeah, it was.
It's a big, as a young guy, that's a big, big deal, and you probably enjoyed it for a while.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden, it's like, man, I'd sure like to get planted somewhere.
Yeah, and it's nice, and people are like, "Oh man, you're so lucky, you get to go everywhere, and this and that and the other thing." But there was so many times where I'd wake up and I'd look around and be like, "Where am I? Like, what country am I in? I mean, literally, what country am I in?" And okay, well, I'm in the Philippines. What city am I in? What island am I on? And then I look at the hotel and I'm like, oh, this is a Holiday Inn Express. So that means I'm here. I'm at the Shangri-La. Okay, that means I'm in Dalian, China. Or and it's weird. I'm at the Continental, so I'm in El Salvador. So it was nuts.
Wow.
It was nuts.
Yeah. So this change in this quote unquote, it's our podcast name, this VO life that you're living now, what do you most enjoy about it?
I think the satisfaction of doing something that I love. It's definitely the most challenging job I've ever had. But I just love doing it. I love the positive reactions from clients. I love their comments. I like making people happy. And sometimes that's a burden though in this, because sometimes I'll go a little too much and I'll end up eating my own lunch or something like that. But I would say the satisfaction of being home. My wife comes home from lunch. She's a teacher, and we get to eat lunch together. I can drink coffee in the morning, kind of get up, do what I want. I don't have to pay tolls Texas tolls are bad, man. Just from where I live to the headquarters, it would take me an hour in the morning to drive one way, and it was just jammed. Without traffic, it takes me 12 minutes to get there. So, I mean, that I don't miss that at all. But I would say that I've really found that being creative is fun.
I'm with you.
Yeah, being creative is fun, and it was crazy because I remember I used to see, you worked up growing hard, this and that, and same with me. My dad was like, "You want it done, you do it yourself, do it right the first time," all that stuff, and I think that I whenever I'd hear an actor or something on an interview, and they're like, "Oh, we work so hard," and I'm thinking in my mind, I'm like, whatever, dude, you don't work hard, you just stand up there and acting around and you get paid. And it's not on-screen acting, but you're acting. You are becoming somebody else. You're pulling in that emotion. You're looking at the script. You're figuring out, what their target audience is. What are they wanting them to feel? And then you have to think about it and be like, all right, how am I going to portray that to where it doesn't sound like somebody's reading? It hits them in the emotions. It hooks them, and they're not thinking, who is this person talking? They're listening to the story and watching the visuals or listening to the music and with it, and they're painting this picture in their mind. And I have to act to do that. I have to become an actor to do that. Right. And so to make a short story long, I do have a bigger respect for actors and the acting, the industry and stuff like that, because it's tough. It's tough. And then especially if you don't think you're good enough, you're running around with imposter syndrome all day, and you start doubting yourself. So, but going back to the coaching, you just listen to that. You follow it, you stick with it, and you try. I think the main thing is movement. You just have to try. Because you can say, oh, I want to do this, or I want to wait for the perfect time. And I got to get all this stuff. And it's like, you just got to start doing something. You know what I mean? You got to start moving.
Do you find yourself listening to things on ads on television, radio, et cetera, more closely and critically? And you're like, I can't believe they aired that. I mean, listen to that guy, or listen to that quality. Isn't it funny how that changes? Where all that stuff used to be, it used to be background noise, and I didn't pay that much attention. But now they're running one spot here on local TV every morning on the morning news, and they had to have taped this during COVID, and they had to have used 2 telephones to record the audio. It's awful. It peaks out and it's crackling and all this, and they're still running it. And every morning it comes on, I'm just like, here we go again. I just can't stand it.
I mean,
it's funny how we get critical.
Your ear becomes super tuned in. Like I was listening to it was a brand name commercial, and I was like, man, I heard like 3 clicks. It was just a little, and I know where it lands on words because it lands on the same part with me. It's like after an S. I have this thing in the back of my soft palate, and when I say S, it always does a thing at the end of it, and I heard it like 3 times in this thing. I'm like, man, this is like you pick it apart, you find out, you're like, oh, I heard that, or you're like, oh, I hear something, or it's kind of funny.
I do the same thing, and I'll hear something, and I'll think, I wonder how they decided on that voice for that, because it just really doesn't sell it to me,
And even if even if I'm like, well, I couldn't have done any better because my voice doesn't fit. But like, you look at the commercial and you look at the, what's happening, and you listen to the music, and you're like, this voice would fit in that perfectly. And then I've done stuff and I've listened to things where I'm like, oh, this person would be perfect for that. Or, oh, this, and I think I've even messaged you before. I'm like, oh, I think this would be perfect for you.
You have. Yep. Yeah, it's really funny how all that changes.
Oh, yeah.
One of the questions I always ask right close to the end of the interview, let's go back in time, and you have an opportunity to talk to 18-year-old Charles. And this is not just related to voiceover, but this is just life in general, and say, look, here's what you should do.
Mm-hmm.
Give 18-year-old Charles some advice.
Don't care about what people think so much. I think don't care about what people think so much, because especially if they're not close to you, not saying be mean or anything like that. Be nice and courteous and do nice things for people, but focus. You need to focus, Charles. Your it's funny now that I say this, your mouth and your ability to talk is not going to make you get through life. Because I thought when I was younger, I was the number one sales for everything I ever sold. Popcorn tins, chocolate, whatever it was. I worked at telemarketing, was my first job. I was like number one in the center for like a year. Like I could, and people would be like, you could sell snowballs to an Eskimo, you can. And I thought because I had that skill, like, yeah, I can talk my way out of a paper. I could do whatever I want with this. And then I started getting older, and it's like, well, you can't just do it with that. Like you can't just be talk. And that's why I think it's ironic, because now I make money with this, but I think I would say, focus more. Don't care what other people think so much. Kind of focus more on yourself, to improve and get better. That's what I would say. And I would say spend more time with my dad, because he passed away when he was 42. So that would be another thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, I lost my dad in 2016, and we were always very, very close. But we always talking about fate and how God lines things up. I became sick before he did, which was very odd. And I had this intestinal thing going on, and and I ended up not being able to work. And next thing I know, I'm going down to see him a lot because he's not feeling exactly right. And then I have surgery. He comes to see me, and my mom pulls me over to the side and says, your dad went like down some roads and places. It wasn't even anywhere on this route. And when I would ask him what was going on, he was just like, oh, I just wanted to drive by here before we got over there, and kind of blew it off. What it ended up being, he had a teeny tiny spot on his lung that they found in a chest x-ray, but it had lung cancer has a habit of running right directly to the brain, and it did. It went right to the brain, and within 3 months, he was gone. And so I definitely second that. I of course, he was near 80 when I lost him, but I wasn't ready, and that's a tough thing. Whether ready or not, it's a tough thing, for sure. But very thankful that God lined those things up to where I could be available those last several months of his life, that I could go see him constantly. And it was an hour away, but I made the trip, at least 3-4 times a week. Take him to Walmart, walk him around, let him push the cart, and do all the things he did, and we had a good time.
Yeah,
but it's tough.
Yeah,
it's tough.
It's tough to. Life is tough a lot of times, and I think that we can either. One thing that my dad always told me was, he goes, Charles, you got to understand that you're either in a storm, right? You're coming out of a storm, or you're getting ready for a storm that's coming. And it's all how you handle it when, like, how are you going to handle it? Are you going to prepare for that storm that's coming? And then whenever it gets there, you're prepared for it, or you got a plan, or you know what to do. Or are you going to say, oh my gosh, there's a storm coming, I don't know what to do, freak out. And then when the storm comes, it destroys you, and I think that's one of those things that I just remember all the time. It's like, I got to enjoy the good times when I have them with the clear skies, but then prepare, like, no. And whether that's financially, spiritually, whatever that is, like, you got to prepare for that. You know what I mean? Because it's not always going to be sunny skies. And And it's
I'm
scary
rowing that boat
sometimes.
right now. I'm scared to death because at the end of the year, I've told my employer I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm jumping into this full time. I can't wait 2 or 3 more years. I need to do it, and my wife's backing me 1,000%. I'm confident with it. I really feel like if I'm sitting in the chair at home and I can react faster and I can market more and do more, I think it'll be okay. But there's always that little thing in the back of your mind where, you're being kind of picked at that, you need that check coming in every 2 weeks. You really need that regular job, so it's tough.
Yeah,
it's tough.
the W-2 job, right?
Yeah.
You need that W-2 job.
And it's funny you were talking about using your voice, and I have always been in management. I've always had to lead people, get people to do things, and I don't say talk them into it, but do it the right way, empathetically, do it the proper way. And by you doing the training, we have had a lot of training in our other careers to do voiceover, whether we knew it or not. A lot. And it was kind of neat to hear you say that, because I thought the same thing. I remember back to being 5 years old and reading sports scores into my cassette recorder and reading the news and the ads out of the Atlanta Journal. We lived in Atlanta at the time, and I thought, boy, when I grow up, I'm going to be on the radio.
Really?
And that was it. And I went to college, went into mass comm, and then I found out what they made, and I said, I better start taking business classes.
Yeah.
But it would have been fun to have done that. And I actually, last year, the local radio station went up and learned to run their board and did some stuff up there and did some commercials for them. That was my introduction to voiceover. I thought that was how you did it. And then I did the same thing you did. I did Bill's blueprint. I used to call it the footprint by accident.
Right. Yeah, I mean, one thing I didn't mention, my demo. I got my demo done I had a DIY demo, and it did me justice and it did me good for its run. And I still have it on a couple of my gigs because I don't want to put my same demo on, all the gigs, because I got good comments. And I think, how we find out what we're good at, right? Or like, what's that voice that you do that your bread and butter one, and there's some that people still, they're like, I really like this voice on this video or this, and they'll tell me, they'll type in a line out of that, and I know exactly which one they're talking about. But I think that even the gigs or even the demos that you make that you don't think it's not your main demo anymore. Maybe it's 3 demos back or something. And you have the individual files for those before you mashed them into one demo. And
right.
I'll tell you what, there's a lot of different people that ask about, oh yeah, I really like that Chick-fil-A. I really like that Carpet One. And I'm thinking to myself, like, Carpet One, where's that at? And it was on one of my 4th ones down on a gig. Or it was on Upwork, and it's something that I put there a long time ago, or on voices.com, I had something, or on Voice Bunny, and it's like way down the bottom, but somebody was listening. They're like, hey, I really like that Carpet One thing you did. And I was like, oh yeah, I remember that one. Okay, I got it. But that being said, I get comments on my pro demo all the time. They're like, oh, I really like this spot. I like this spot. I like this spot. I like this spot. And it's all from my pro demo. And, I learned a lot. I got my demo through Chuck Duran with Demos That Rock. And like, if you ever watch his videos on YouTube, it is the same dude when you talk to him on FaceTime. It is the same guy.
I bet.
Like, he is 100% on those videos what he is in real life. And, and it was a really good experience for me, learning about that side of the business, learning about because I'm not here to dog agencies. I'm not here to dog freelance platforms. I want a little bit of all of it. You know what I mean? Like, hey, great. You guys want to do it? You guys like the blue crayons? You guys like the green crayons? You guys like the yellow crayons? That's awesome. Well, I'm going to get a little piece of all those crayons. That's the way I think about it. And, it was eye-opening to do my demo with him because he talks about that side of the industry, the agency side of the industry, things like that. And I want a piece of that also. And there are ways that you can get pieces of all the pie. And so, but demo wise, getting it through Chuck Duran, I really thought it was a good investment.
Mm-hmm. Good. That was one of the questions that I had, and I guess we skirted around it after our coaching. And I know of 3 people that have gotten demos from him, and they all 3 have seen a big uptick. And I think that's great. Now, I'm going to ask one final question about demos, and this is, I don't know, do you think it's more in the production side of it or more in how he coached you through and got the proper spots?
Man, I'm going to say, I want to say it's about even, because the way we came to my demo spots that I picked, we talked for probably about an hour and a half, not starting with like, so, what kind of electronics gig do you want to do? Or what kind of food spot do you want to do, or whatever. It started with like, it was like a psychology lesson. It started with like, tell me 3 words that you would give me to describe yourself. And it's crazy because I'm like, oh, this, and this. Like, I just knew, like, I know myself. And he's like, okay, who's your best friend in the world? And I told him, and he said, now, if I went up to that person and I said, tell me the 3 things about Charles that you love. Right. And he goes, what would he say? And I thought about it, and I'm like, well, they would probably say this, this, and this. It wasn't even the 3 things that I said, and like, you just kind of like do this like deep mental dive on things. And we're not even getting to what products and stuff. Right. And, he knew what products we had to have, like, in the industry, like what are the ones that what topics do you need to cover? Because you can have 5 different voices, but if they're all about St. Jude's, it's not gonna do its thing. And it's like, you need to hit these categories. Now, this 6th category, you don't want to have 7, but in the 6th category, out of these, which ones do you want to pick? Because it's going to be this one or this one. And just that industry knowledge, that connections that he has, it was super good for me.
Yeah,
it was really
good.
Good. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, and I think it's as much, like you said, in the experience as it is the end product. Mm-hmm. And speaking of the end product, as much as I've enjoyed this conversation, the end product, I would like to, with your permission, we'd like to play your demo right here at the end of the podcast. We want people to hear the things that you're doing and how it sounds, and hear that rockin', or that demo that rocks, from Chuck Duran.
Sure.
And Charles, hey, I really appreciate it. This has been fun for me to learn even more about you. I know we've talked back and forth for several months, mm-hmm. and we appreciate your support on our page and everything, and your participation. And hang with us. We're still got stuff to do, I think. And
right on.
It's been a lot of fun. So, man, I wish you the best. I think you're on a great path, and stay with it for sure.
Yeah, I really appreciate you talking with me today, and like you said, kind of getting to know each other more, and just talking about our journey, because there's a lot of people that are on this journey, and there's people that are scared, there's people that are nervous, there's people that are worried, because I've been in all those situations. There's always still a little bit of that in me now, but now there's a little bit of extra. There's a little bit of confidence. There's a little bit of hope.
Right.
There's a little bit of happiness. So it's good.
Yep.
I appreciate it.
Well, I've enjoyed watching your climb, because I can remember the first time you were on one of our meetups several months ago.
Yeah.
And it's just been fun to watch it. Really enjoyed it.
That's cool.
Hey folks, listen up. Here he comes. This is Charles, the voice.
Okay, that's enough talking. Can we hear some samples now? Oh boy. Here we go again.
Take yourself on a getaway in the Jeep that gives adventure its inspiration. Live your best life in the new Jeep Wrangler. I have to warn you, the Grilled Spicy Deluxe Sandwich from Chick-fil-A is a handful of smoking hot deliciousness. The juicy chicken in a spicy pepper marinade, covered in Colby Jack cheese and cilantro lime sauce, is like nothing I've ever tasted. It may cause mouth fires, but take it from me, it's totally worth it. When the power of technology meets the power of 1,000 ideas created in the human mind, the world races towards tomorrow. Once we find clarity to see the possibilities, it is then we see where the future starts. AMD. Managing your finances is simple when you have the Citi Mobile app. Wherever you go, you can check account balances, make deposits, transfer funds, or pay bills with just a few taps. Experience the power of simplicity. Raise your glass to the small batch tequila with a rich, bright flavor that'll keep you coming back for more. Terramana Tequila. Let the good times pour. Those other razors claim to have rubber face massagers, hydraulic blades, blah, blah, blah. Cut through all the hype and pick up the razor designed to give you a great shaving experience without the gimmicks. Gillette Mach 3.
The capacity for what lies in all of us. Sleeping. Waiting.
You've been listening to The VO Life with Troy Holden. Check back for more episodes each week and catch up on what you've missed also. This is for you, those just living that VO life. Thanks for listening and join us again.
The VO Life intro is by Louise Porter. The outro by Liz Moya. You can pick us up on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple, and many other podcast carriers. Need to send me an email? Do it today. Troy@TroyHoldenVoices.com. Thanks for listening.